What's that?
It's a map. It's your country you're lying all over there.
Not my country. My country is me and my family.
Country's also Huerta. And the governor, the landlords, Gunther Rouge and his locusts. This little revolution we're having here.
Revolution? Revolution, please don't try to tell me about revolution. I know all about the revolutions and how they start. The people that read the books, they go to the people that don't read the books. They poor people and they say, oh, the time has come to have a change, huh? Shit, shush! I know what I'm talking about when I'm talking about the revolutions. The people who read the books, or the people who can't read the books, the poor people and say, we have to have a change, so the poor people make the change, huh? And then the people who read the books, they all sit around the big polished tables, and they talk and talk and talk and eat and eat and eat, huh? But what has happened to the poor people? They're dead! That's your revolution.
A modern day remake of Matthew Vaughn's Lay a Kick. A Coen brothers end up with Timothy Chalamet. A Citizen Kane prequel, a Midnight Cowboy sequel. Alvin and the Chipmunks deserve another squeakquel. There's so many new ways to revisit sideways, but a graphic novel is how we choose to update. But we still hold fast, you can't change the past on the Ruined Childhoods podcast.
The Revolution is not a social dinner, a literary event, a drawing, or an embroidery. It cannot be done with elegance and courtesy. This quote from Mao Zedong comes from his 1927 essay, Report on an Investigation of the Peasant Movement in Hunan, aka the Hunan Report. Thought to be his most famous essay, the Hunan Report outlined Chairman Mao's observations of violence amongst peasant communities and that no power from the cities would be able to hold them back. The aforementioned quote served also as inspiration for a 1966 Chinese revolutionary song and also appears on the screen during the first moments of this episode's film. Greetings, Starfighters. This is Ruined Childhoods. I'm John, joined as always by my brother Dan. And on this episode, we celebrate the 1971 spaghetti western Duck You Sucker, aka Fistful of Dynamite, a movie that represents the revolution with a tasteful lack of elegance and courtesy. Dan, tell me about your experience with explosives.
Where do I begin? Probably in the same place where I end. I'm terribly afraid of them and have no experience with explosives. So,
you know, we had to get into this episode somehow.
Right.
I figured, why not? I didn't think you had any experience with any sort of explosive, but
no, when I was growing up, there were two types of kids. There were the types of kids that would risk blowing their fingers off, lighting up firecrackers on like illegal because in New Jersey you couldn't get them. Right. Lighting those up on the 4th of July, and then the kids who were deathly afraid of causing themselves any bodily harm. I fell into the latter category.
Yeah. No. Likewise, and I feel like we are better for it. At least better off.
All 10.
Yeah, I know.
The original issues right here.
Yeah, there's never, at least for me, been any draw. I mean, even fireworks, I feel like I've lost any interest in them. You know what? And it was once I had a dog that became terrified of them, where I was just like, oh yeah, no, why do we do this?
Right.
Yeah.
It feels kind
and
of
understanding
silly.
Also for fireworks, like, you know, the impact that it has for people with PTSD, who have served in the military. And it's just like, yeah, this is completely ridiculous that this happens.
Yeah. Not to be downers here, but yes, we are both. Yeah, I just don't see, like, I thought about it once and was like, okay, well, why do we do this? And there was no good reason. It's like we like to see pretty shiny things and hear things go boom.
Yeah. But this movie that we're talking about is not about fireworks explosives.
No.
We're talking about the destroy an entire city block type explosives.
Well, and destroy the tyranny of oppression explosives.
Yes. Well, how about we just launch right into this movie? Dan, was this one that you've ever seen before?
I've never seen it before. No, have you?
No, I haven't. I feel like I have been so reluctant towards Westerns, and when I started to watch the like Sergio Leone films, it was like, oh, there is a type of Western that speaks to me, because his films aren't the like cowboys and Indians and the stoic American. They tell like such different stories. And, we covered The Good and the Bad and the Ugly. And that was kind of like, because that was like Civil War and really showing like a different side of the things that you typically see when we're talking about that era. And watching Duck You Sucker, aka Fistful of Dynamite, it's
AKA
also like
Once Upon a Time in the Revolution.
Right, Once Upon a Time in the Revolution, yeah. But the official title, the one that shows up at the end credits, is Duck You Sucker. So,
well, and that is actually to differentiate. There's a couple of different cuts of it, and Duck You Sucker is like, I guess, the director's cut. It includes that release is longer. It includes more political content. Mm-hmm. And from what I read, because I only watched one version, it shows more of Juan's darker side. The Rod Steiger's character in this.
Right. Now, I don't know which one I watched. It was on Tubi.
You watched Duck You Sucker.
Duck You Sucker, yeah.
Yeah, and you watched the longer one.
And it makes sense because I feel like there were a lot of times where it's like, oh, I thought this movie was going to end like 5 minutes ago, but there's still like 35 minutes left.
Right. Yeah.
So that makes a lot of sense because there's certainly a lot in there where I was like, that could get cut out and it'd still be an engaging film.
Right. Yeah. There's a lot going on in this movie.
There sure is.
Yeah. Why don't should I get into a
Let's do
synopsis
synopsize, please.
After a chance encounter between a Mexican thief and an Irish revolutionary, each tries to get the other to help them on their individual conquests, leading to them becoming unwitting heroes of the Mexican Revolution.
Yeah.
So as the Irish revolutionary, we have John Mallory, played by James Coburn. And as Juan, the Mexican thief, we have the very not Mexican Rod Steiger.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, let's just get that out of the way right now, is that this movie is guilty of some horrendous brown facing.
Yes.
And non-representational casting. That said, it's at least not done for humorous effect.
Right. Yeah.
So
and Rod Steiger is very good.
Right. Rod Steiger does the best that he can in a role that he should not be playing.
It's 1971.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
It wouldn't happen like that now.
Right.
Ideally.
And so this was co-written and directed by Sergio Leone.
Mm-hmm.
And scored by Ennio Morricone. And interesting footnote, he actually turned down the offer to score another 1971 film, and not one that we've talked about, but one that I have certainly talked about a lot.
Oh, geez. One that we haven't covered, but that you've talked about
in life.
A lot. In life. Oh, you're just going to have... Okay, do you want to give me a clue?
The ending, the score for this movie does not indicate at all that Ennio Morricone would have.
Oh, geez. So let's see.
In fact, the score for this film, I would say, is mostly synthesizer.
Ooh, like Tangerine Dream. That would have been before Tangerine Dream would be.
Yeah, before Tangerine Dream, mostly synthesizer and mixed in with classical music.
Oh, Clockwork Orange.
It is a Clockwork Orange.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And it would my favorite, definitely in my top 3, if not my number 1.
It'd be very different. I mean, clearly it'd be so different with different music. Like the music that's in that movie, like, defines its tone in so many ways.
Absolutely. I don't know how serious the offer was. I don't know how much, how much they were planning. Something tells me Stanley Kubrick was not banking on having Ennio Morricone score A Clockwork Orange. I feel like that movie turned out very much the way it was supposed to turn out. So
I
but
agree.
really,
Yeah.
but his score for this is one of his most highly acclaimed scores.
Yeah, I didn't love it. The main thing that has like the chon 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 like
Shun,
that.
shun, shun.
Yeah, I didn't really love that so much.
Yeah.
It felt like it was trying to, capture the magic from like the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah.
And it's just like, no, that one was just too perfect, and you can't try and chase that dragon again.
It's kind of hard to hear another one of his Western scores after that one and not think of it. And of course, he's done other scores.
Yeah.
But in terms of Westerns, and actually, I was thinking about this movie in terms of like calling it a Western.
Mm-hmm.
And it really feels like it feels like it does fit in that genre, but is also it's even less of the traditional Western than something like Good, the Bad, or the Ugly, or Once Upon a Time in America.
Well, it's a dusty, sweaty, turn of the century
war film,
war movie. It's
more of a war movie.
It's for sure more of a war movie, political movie. But it takes place predominantly outside.
Yes,
I think
yes.
that's like a touchstone of a lot of like what makes like a Western a Western.
Oh yeah, no, of course.
Yeah.
And yeah, no, there are a lot of things. If you look at a still from this movie, and if you showed someone a still from this movie and said, what genre is this movie? Chances are they'd say Western.
Yeah. Yeah. So I do feel like the the two leads, Coburn was great. I felt like he made perfect sense in that role. And I didn't know super much about him. And when I was like looking him up, I was just like, oh, like this is actually a pretty interesting person, and overcame a lot of, big struggles health wise, and really, became, I don't know, a real, I guess, hero in his personal life. And in this movie, you look at him and you're just like, nowadays you look at somebody like that and you're just like, yeah, that's a freaking actor right there. That's somebody who's like doing this. He's got these big goofy teeth, and he's got, the wrinkles in his face, and he's a worn, a weathered man, and it's
you could like
effective.
strike a match on his cheek.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And I'm sure he has. And it really made me just like so grateful for the fact that these films exist like this, that we can look back on. And another thing that I loved about this movie was the direction. Some of the like really exciting pieces were super well done. I mean, the movie starts with Rod Steiger's character Juan pissing on a bunch of ants. That's the very first thing that we see.
Yeah. After the Mao quote.
After the Mao quote, yeah, and it's just like it's very striking, and it hits you like right from the beginning.
Oh, it's very visceral, because you go from that to this carriage that he gets on, and all of the people on it's like it feels more like a train car than a carriage.
Yeah, it does.
It's a carriage, but all of the people on it are just these disgusting human beings, and the way that Leone shoots them.
Well, it's funny because they're like, white, seemingly like aristocrats, maybe not that level quite, but like, well off white people. And Juan is this sweaty, dark-skinned guy that's, sitting in the corner. And yeah, you're disgusted by the white people. And it's just like, ooh, nice. I like this.
Oh, just all of the things that they say, and like they're just a collection of terrible people.
They do all these really great close-ups, and it just makes them seem so unattractive. And it's really satisfying when what happens, which is the stagecoach gets held up by Juan's family, by his people. And the first shot that you see is so cool. You know, it's like on either side of his head come two guns through the wall of the stagecoach, and it's just like, yeah, let's do this.
But it's funny because the whole time these people are mocking him, and they're saying like, do you even know who your father is, and like how many children do you have, and not knowing what's going to happen. You're still sitting there, and I'm sitting there thinking like, oh, they're really building it up so that we do not feel bad for these people.
Totally.
Whenever whatever happens. And sure enough, we don't, and it's even more satisfying that it is Juan's children and father who
it's a family affair thievery.
Disturbing rape that happens.
Yeah, the assault is upsetting. You say that everyone kind of deserved stuff, but I didn't.
Well, no. I wasn't. I didn't say they deserved it. I said that seeing how disgusting they are, they're building you up to not feel bad.
Right.
Right.
I did feel bad with the assault. That was one area where I was just like, ugh.
I felt bad, but I just felt more confused because, like, he's standing. I was just like, I don't know how he's doing what he's doing, but he's.
Yeah,
it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable, but so is the whole beginning.
Well, it's, doing it to humiliate her and to, show dominance and kind of just like, you don't know what you're talking about and you have no control over what you think you have control over.
Right. And I do think that, this is part of like just the setup that we're and that's also probably, I think, something that might have been cut from the like Fistful of Dynamite release. Yeah, well, just from what I was reading, that the Ducky-Sucker cut showed more of Juan's like, darker tendencies. And
got it.
I feel like of all the things he does in the movie, his sexual assault is maybe the worst.
Yeah, that's definitely that's definitely up there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then shortly after that, we meet John, and he is this guy who's just kind of passing through on his motorcycle, and Juan, shoots out the tire and everything, and turns out that he's got this whole jacket that's full of dynamite and all sorts of explosive chemicals and stuff, and of course. Juan gets stars in his eyes, and he's just like, ooh, this guy can help me, rob banks and whatever. And the gears are turning, and the way that their partnership develops over the course of the movie, and the way that John brings Juan into becoming a revolutionary, like, begrudgingly, he's this kind of like revolutionary. He becomes this revolutionary hero, and he isn't comfortable with that. And he's literally being lifted on people's shoulders, and he's just like confused. And it's almost just like, how did I get here? This is not what I envisioned for myself.
Right.
I'm a thief. I don't do this.
Well, so his whole thing with Mallory is there's this bank in Mesa Verde.
Right.
That he's kind of got his eyes on and thinking about how much money is in that bank. And it's like John is the missing piece to the puzzle of how he's going to rob that bank. And that's, I don't feel that like it's been, 55 years since this movie came out. So, but the bank ends up being filled with political prisoners.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And once he kind of opens the first vault and lets them out, he's okay, I guess this is he does go along with it, and he's like, okay, all right, I guess this is what I'm doing now.
Yeah, well, he's, in a lot of ways forced into it. And, just to take a step back from the plot and talking more about some of those striking visuals like we had, like with the stagecoach and pissing on the ants, there's a lot of great, symbolic shots. when they get to Mesa Verde, is it Mesa Verde?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Mesa Verde.
Yeah, Mesa Verde.
Yeah.
And is it the governor? Is that the guy? Who's got all the posters around?
Oh, I know.
And
I know what you're talking about.
You just see the shot of this poster, and there's a horizontal line being ripped through it. It goes right through the eyes, and then Juan's eyes peek through from behind the wall, and it's just like, bravo for figuring that out and making that happen. It looks so good. It's so effective.
It so is.
It's really wonderful. All of the different, like that bridge explosion.
Dude, the bridge explosion was awesome.
Which reminded me of The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Mm-hmm.
At that one part. But I thought it was so well done. It was so cool. And
the building,
that was like the building
when when the people are coming to find Mallory, and he was it an old church?
Looks like it,
that he blows up. Yeah, I mean, just thinking about, like, you're not using digital effects to do any of this. This is all practical.
Didn't exist.
So, the explosions look fantastic.
They're only considered digital effects to the point that they use their actual fingers, their digits, to make them.
Touché.
But aside from that, that's it.
Yes.
Yeah, it's so satisfying. And another shot that I loved is when you see this train coming, and you're right in the middle on the ground of these train tracks, and this train is coming, and it's like, well, certainly it's gonna cut, and certainly they're gonna stop rolling, right? And then the train, like, it's like the camera was under the tracks at like just the right angle, and just goes right over the camera. It's incredible looking.
Yeah.
The scene where they're in the train, and we meet the doctor who comes into the train car, and he's reading his book, and the reveal of who he is really satisfying. And it's
Dr.
like Dr. Viega. And it's like this movie that, feels a little slow, keeps you, it draws you back in during certain moments.
Oh, yeah.
With the incredible storytelling devices and cinematography and shot setups. And the performances are just so good and satisfying. There were times where I had to remind myself that Rod Steiger is not a Mexican guy from 1913. Not very much not.
Yeah. I kind of hate to say it, but Rod Steiger really does do a good job in this role.
Yeah. And this is right after In the Heat of the Night, right?
Not long after. In the Heat of the Night, I think, is 67.
67? Okay.
Yeah, it's short. It's it's not long after. So
yeah,
quite
very different roles.
Yeah, but he really does. I feel like his eyes in this
very expressive.
Really expressive, and you get that sense of he's really just trying to get by.
Mm-hmm.
And get his family from one thing to the next.
Yeah. Now, what didn't really work for me was all of the flashbacks from Mallory, going back to him and his best friend, who we would then later see in the present day, and this woman that they're both dating.
Yeah.
That was a little too much for me.
The flashbacks to them in whatever the Irish countryside, driving and having little makeout part, and there's this weird thing going on with the three of them.
They're a polycule,
I guess. And then the other flashbacks that showed the betrayal.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Not necessary. They are there. So, I mean, I guess they're good in that they set up the betrayal. Mallory discovers that Dr. Viega is identifying revolutionaries for I should say he is doing it under coercion. Dr. Viega is captured and tortured, and they kind of have him sitting in a car as they're lining up revolutionaries to execute them, and Viega is saying like yes or no. I'm not saying Viega is like, totally innocent. It doesn't look like they beat him that badly.
Right.
But Mallory sees this happen and then just decides to like keep it to himself, which I think I guess what we're supposed to get from the flashbacks is that maybe because he ended up shooting the other guy
right
in Ireland, the other his friend and I don't know threesome partner.
Sure.
So it felt like they were there, like there might have been a purpose for them, but it wasn't that clear, and I don't think they were necessary. Again, that's another thing that maybe is in the Duck You Sucker cut and not in the Fistful of Dynamite cut.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I like that there is backstory, but I wish that it was done a little bit more elegantly. And that's an opportunity, I think, for like a bond building moment, perhaps between John Mallory and Juan.
Yeah,
where perhaps they're telling each other a little bit about like what brought them to do what they're doing, and we can have him tell the story, and we can go back to see some visuals from it with some sort of explanation, but instead it's just a little bit more of a, I don't know, confusing element that takes you out of things a little bit, because it's also done seemingly after where the movie should have ended.
Right. I mean, some of it, they're just kind of, some of them feel randomly thrown in. Like at one point where you just cut to the one that's just them in the car before they go for their like little picnic. The flashback with Mallory in what I'm assuming is Ireland. Yeah, and it's just they're just driving in the car and they're just laughing.
Oh yeah.
It feels so out of place.
Well, also thinking about it, it's like I thought that this movie was taking place in 1913. And how long ago would it have been? Because cars weren't really around much before then.
That's true. Not that. I mean, what would it have been like? Not even 10 years.
Yeah, and in Ireland, I don't know. Anyway, that's not what we're talking about.
I did not think to research the history of automotive.
I only just started thinking about that right now.
Yeah, I did not. Yeah. Because also like when it first happens, I'm like, what is happening now?
Yeah. Well, and I feel like they did a decent enough job of making James Coburn look slightly younger.
Yeah.
He's like fresh faced and, smiling and giddy, and he's a little less, worn.
Yeah.
And so I feel like that was like an appropriate, like, hey, this is maybe just a couple of years ago, right? A few years ago.
I mean, right. It would have to be. You're right. Like there weren't cars before that.
Yeah.
I think 1904 I feel like 1904 was when the first cars were mass produced.
And when did they come to Ireland is also a question I have, because I'm assuming that it's taking place in Ireland. Although maybe it's United States, for him to be that close to Mexico.
Yeah, but you also get the impression.
I'm trying to just do them some favors geographically.
I don't think it can be done. So all right. So according to the Google AI overview, the first series production car was manufactured between 1894 and 1902 in Germany, and it was the Benz Velo.
Okay.
The first mass-produced car on an assembly line was the 1901 Oldsmobile Curved Dash. And then the first mass-marketed car, the Model T, was 1908.
Okay. Yeah.
So, like, we're not experts here, but
And
something
I didn't like see what car they were driving or anything. But anyway, the timeline looked a little off. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. I'd be interested to know what type of car it was they were driving, though.
Fair enough. Well, if anybody that's listening to or watching this podcast on YouTube or Spotify, and you know the answer, leave us a comment. We'd love to know.
We need your car knowledge.
Yeah.
Not carnal knowledge. That's a whole other movie.
That's a whole other thing.
From 1971, I think. Or 1970. Anyway, we're not talking about that. We're talking about Duck You Sucker.
Yeah. The other thing is James Coburn's Irish accent is, spotty.
He barely uses.
He seems to forget sometimes that he's supposed to be like totally Irish. But,
right. Yeah. Yeah. And I guess when you have Rod Steiger as Mexican, you're not really sweating Coburn's Irish accent.
Not so much. I'm just happy to be there for the ride, pretty much.
And it is a ride, and they do say "Duck You Sucker." He
does say "Duck You Sucker" a lot. I did.
Do you
see
think they put that in after? Because I don't think you ever see him say it.
I think that you see him say it. Well, there is the moment when Juan is about to be executed, and he says it. Before an explosion. I think that you see him say it.
Okay.
Yeah. There was something on IMDb trivia where I guess Jason Robards was at one point considered to be in the movie.
Oh, that makes sense.
I would have loved to have seen that version.
And he worked with Leone in Once Upon a Time in the West.
Mm-hmm. And I guess at one point they wanted the title to be Duck You Asshole. Yeah. But Robards was like, they'll never go for that.
I read that. I don't think I read that it was Robards who said that, but yeah,
I wrote it down I did a screen grab of the thing in my notes. It says, Jason Robards has said that during the filming of Once Upon a Time in the West, Sergio Leone approached Charles Bronson and himself about starring in Duck You Sucker. Only Leone wanted to call it Duck You Asshole. Robards told Leone that he would never get away with a title like that in the U.S. We love Jason Robards.
Oh, so much. Jason Robards fans.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, I also, I think this was when Leone was really looking to get away from directing Westerns.
Sure. Yeah.
And you kind of get that feeling like he's just like, he doesn't give a shit. He's just throwing it all at the wall. He's letting things get a little bonkers with this one. Like even just with the beginning, like the way he starts the film.
Yeah.
Is a way of saying like, okay, fine. You happy now? Cause I think what I remembered reading was that he did try to get like somebody else to direct the movie. And then it just came down to like him doing it himself. So it does feel like there's a little bit that's like, fine, I'm going to do one more, but like, I'm going to throw like, it's going to open with a quote from Mao and Rod Steiger pissing on ants.
Yeah, right. I'm wondering, I'm trying to remember how many movies did he direct?
Not
I feel like it wasn't a ton, right?
No. And after this, I'm trying to remember what he did between this and Once Upon a Time in America.
All right, so so it says uncredited director for 1954's They Stole a Tram and 59's The Last Days of Pompeii, and then he did The Colossus of Rhodes in 61, Fistful of Dollars in 64, For a Few Dollars More in 65, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly in 66, Once Upon a Time in the West in 68, Duck You Sucker in 71, and then Once Upon a Time in America in 84.
Wow, I've actually seen more than half of his filmography. I've seen the last 4.
Yeah, there you go. I haven't seen Once Upon a Time in America, but that one's been on my list for a while.
That's a good, like, you need like a rainy Sunday afternoon for that one, especially if it's the full 4-hour cut.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. Dude, it's long. I've seen it I want to say maybe I've seen it twice, and I don't remember if both times were
That's
the
8 hours.
4-hour versions. Well, yeah, I didn't watch them both in one day. But yeah, it's really weird, and it's interesting because it focuses on like it's a crime drama, but about like Jewish gangsters.
Right.
It's De Niro and James Woods.
Yeah.
It's
De Niro and James Woods are playing Jewish gangsters.
Yeah.
You know, that's actually really funny that you should bring this up, because just today I was in my car and I was thinking about Italian actors playing Jewish, because I was thinking about John Turturro in Quiz Show, and that got me thinking about, other Italian actors playing Jewish. And then I was just like, and I know there's been like a bunch of like Italian actors, and just like trying to come up with more in my head.
John Turturro's done it more than once because his character in Miller's Crossing is Jewish, if I remember correctly.
That's true. Yeah, I think so.
But John Turturro, as bona fide Jews, I feel like John Turturro kind of gets the stamp of approval.
Yeah, he gets a pass for sure. But De Niro wasn't one that was like at the top of my head, because I haven't seen Once Upon a Time in America. So
yeah. No, and I think that's the only. I'm like, what was his name in Hi Mom?
John Rubin.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So
jury's
could
out.
have been.
So
and by the way, not to go back to our Hi Mom episode from a few ago, you were wondering if he ever did actually say his name in the movie until the very end, and he does say that his name is John Rubin at the beginning and at a few points throughout. So anyway,
okay,
that's neither here nor there.
Okay,
that's for a different episode.
One that we already did. So
one that we did a few weeks ago.
Fabulous. So yeah, but that's interesting though, because Once Upon a Time in America is the next film he does after Duck You Sucker.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that's fascinating, and I wonder what was he offered in the time between? What was he doing?
Yeah, that's 13 years?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, I don't know.
I was just collecting residuals from the the Eastwood movies, and Once Upon a Time in the West is revered. Have you ever seen Once Upon a Time in the West?
I don't think that I have. That one's with Jason Robards, of course, Henry Fonda, Charles Bronson. Yeah, no, I haven't seen that one.
That's a
Claudia Cardinale.
That's a great one. I've seen that a couple of times.
But yeah, I mean, he was just so busy during the 60s, and we'll count Duck You Sucker as part of that. But like from, pretty much from 1959 to 1971, he was, working, because I'm sure that he was either shooting something or releasing something during all that time.
Yeah.
Colossus of Rhodes. I've never seen that one either.
I've never seen that. According to Wikipedia, he was apparently an early choice to direct Flash Gordon.
Interesting.
Wow. Would have loved that.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to see every director taking a stab at directing Flash Gordon.
Every director.
Every single director. It needs to be every director's fourth movie.
I want to see Charlie Kaufman's Flash Gordon.
Oh my God.
It's just Flash floating through space having an existential
an existential crisis. Yeah. Oh my God.
I don't know. I was just sitting here trying to think of, I was like, who is the last director that
was good,
Gordon
fast
movie?
thinking for that one. Wow.
Yeah.
I would for sure see that one opening night.
Absolutely. Werner Herzog's Flash Gordon.
That one I would see. No, that one I can imagine actually happening.
No, that feels like it would be. Yeah. It could actually happen and be awesome.
Considering that he acted in the Star Wars universe, I feel like it's not impossible for him to, get involved with a Flash Gordon.
And there's still time. He's still making movies.
There's still time. Yep, he's still doing it. So anyway, back to Duck You Sucker. Dan, as far as like the three different names go, do you feel like it is more deserving for one than the others?
Ooh, really good question. I was thinking about that, and I'm gonna go with. So, all right, it kind of feels like Once Upon a Time in the Revolution, which I think was what Leone wanted to call it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that might be the overall best, like most appropriate title. I don't think it's the title. I think I really like Duck You Sucker. I think A Fistful of Dynamite is misleading because it makes you think that it's a part of the Man with No Name series, and because it calls back to A Fistful of Dollars.
Right. Yeah, I agree, and I feel the same way also about the Once Upon a Time in the Revolution, because it almost feels like it's trying to shoehorn it into a series that it's not part of, and you know, clearly, you know, there was only one before it, and Once Upon a Time in America hadn't happened yet, but
yeah. Well, and Once Upon a Time in America and Once Upon a Time in the West are really very different. Like, there's really nothing that connects them other than the director, composer, and title.
Well, also, it's like when you hear Once Upon a Time, I feel like it sets you up for some sort of like fantastical journey.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if, you know, the movies that have been more recent, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Once Upon a Time in Mexico, which was not that long ago. I feel like those are hearkening back to Sergio Leone's films.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, it's not trying to, you know, set its own path forward. It's really
because that's Rodriguez and Tarantino who are Leone fanboys.
Well, Once Upon a Time in Mexico, especially so. And the two of them, of course, you know, they want to use that. But it feels like this one, it doesn't give me that like Once Upon a Time mentality.
Right. It doesn't feel as epic. It's epic, but it doesn't feel, it doesn't have, I agree where it doesn't have that feeling to it. Although it's kind of more of an epic than Once Upon a Time in the West, because it really takes these characters from being especially Juan, from being an individual, just trying to make his way, you know, at this time, to, you know, being part of this major, significant historical event. So it's kind of like, in some ways, it almost merits the Once Upon a Time title more so than the others. Once Upon a Time in America is I mean, really just about like how these, like, you know, poor kids from immigrant families got into crime, and like what parts of their life they had to sacrifice in order to be successful criminals, and also how, like, you know, being in, because like one of the characters you know, gets arrested as I think it's the James Woods character, who like he like gets arrested as a teenager and is in jail for a while, but they feel more personal than Duck You Sucker, which, I mean, I think that's the title, because that's also a title that makes you say, what's this movie about? Yeah.
And I do feel like Duck You Sucker, it works, but it would work even better if it removed a lot of the confusing subplot stuff that we talked about before with, like, you know, John Mallory's like old friend and everything like that. Like, it feels like a more whimsical action movie, and I guess adventure movie, rather than the like, all the betrayals and all of the ways that, you know, somebody's, you know, getting their revenge, and then, you know, what happens to John at the end. It's just like, does that need to happen? Can't we just like have the revolution be a success, and, you know, the two of them are now kind of bonded for life?
Well, and that, you know, actually you bring up another point, and it's something else where I feel like this movie has a bit of a shortcoming, in that it tries to establish this villain, like this. I don't know if he's a general or whatever, like the really like skinny guy who, Ruiz, right, who's like trying to, I guess, who's like really trying to stop the rebels, and he just looks like this really cold looking like military guy.
He's like a cockroach. He's this guy that's just, being a pest to them. He won't die. He, seems to always be able to find his way back to them and try to stop them and get thwarted. And
he kind of reminded me of, I'm going to reference this movie, and you'll know what I'm talking about, and hopefully somebody else will. But the Everett McGill character in Under Siege 2.
Yes.
Who's just kind of like, he's like, my mission is to kill my enemies, and that is what I'm going to do.
Yeah, he's like, part of the bad guy team with Eric Bogosian. But
by
he's
the way,
kind
Under
of on his
Siege
own path.
2 Dark Territory, which I know we spoke about briefly on our Under Siege episode, and John spoke very highly of, and I only recently got to watch it, and yes, my goodness, please, like it is so much fun. Under Siege 2 Dark Territory.
Under Siege 2 Dark Territory, Duck You Sucker, two of the great train movies. Yes. Yeah, I think it's great. I mean, that one is also so digitally in the past.
Right.
Just because I don't know when we'll ever have an opportunity to talk about Dark Territory again. But Casey Ryback, this Steven Seagal's character, he has it's not a Palm Pilot, it's an Apple Newton.
Wait,
it's like,
is it not a Palm Pilot?
I think it's an Apple Newton, which was Apple's very first like tablet, which was it was basically like a Palm Pilot. And he had his he was writing a book, and you look at the screen and it just says like, Casey's notes, or like, no, Ryback's notes.
Well, it's his cookbook, right?
His cookbook, right? His cookbook, because he's a chef, right?
Yeah.
So it's just like, he has a little note called Ryback's notes. And it's just like, oh my God, this is so funny. It's like, of course he'd have like, a dorky, like, this is the default naming convention for this, very primitive application for note taking.
I mean, yeah, well, just in terms of like a snapshot of where technology was in 1996, it's a wonderful movie.
Well, I mean, 1996, Apple computers were doing a lot of great things. They were, you were able to keep your notes for your cookbook, or you can take down an entire alien fleet if you're Jeff Goldblum.
That's, man, Apple was... That was the time to buy that stock.
Yeah. That was
twice in one summer.
Twice in one summer. Yeah.
So getting back to Duck You Sucker, as I'm just scrolling through the Wikipedia page in terms of directors. So there were other directors that were attached. Peter Bogdanovich was Leone's first choice.
That would have been interesting.
And only after that was Sam Peckinpah, who is a much more obvious choice.
Yeah, Bogdanovich, and I haven't seen too many Bogdanovich films. I mean, at this point, he would have done Last Picture Show.
It was the same year.
Right? Same year?
Yeah.
Yeah. It just looks, I mean, it looks older.
Well, right, yeah, it's black and white.
It's black and white.
Right, it looks like it was made in the 50s or 60s.
Exactly,
very intentionally.
Yeah. And it takes place in like another dusty old,
Right.
Anyway.
But Bogdanovich is not somebody who I think of when it comes to like war and revolution. I think of Bogdanovich when it comes more to like, interpersonal relationships.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Which, I mean, this movie could have benefited from that a little bit more.
True.
Because, in some ways it is a bromance. It is about these two people who, see this, they form this connection, and they're a very unlikely pair. And does one want to take advantage of the other's skills? Yes. But do they come around to see them as a, different type of person in their life by the end of the movie? Definitely yes.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I mean, it's an interesting movie about two people who, I mean, it's like Juan has connections because he has his family, but you have two people who are struggling to make connections. Mallory, who was, betrayed by his best friend.
Yeah.
And is, just kind of like, on his own. Like you say, he's driving his motorcycle through Mexico and just blowing shit up.
Yeah.
And, Juan, who is really just going from, like heist to heist.
Right. Yeah. Just trying to scrape by until he gets a nice bank hit.
Right. And and until he finds someone who can blow up that bank and get them inside.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, even though there were definitely some moments that took me out of things, it always brought me back in. There was, enough there to keep me interested. I am curious to maybe see the very edited down version to see how different it would be. But I don't know. Dan, what would you do given the opportunity to have your hands on Duck You Sucker?
Oh, yeah. I really think for this, I would just remake it.
Yeah.
We don't have enough movies about the Mexican Revolution, and there are certainly some flaws in the execution of in this execution that could be corrected, and it could be streamlined. And I was actually recently watched a movie and I thought, wow, the filmmaker for this would actually be really good. And I watched this movie called Sirat on streaming on Hulu, and directed by Oliver Lax. It was from last year. It was nominated for a couple of technical
it sounds familiar.
Academy Awards. It's the story of a man who he and his son are searching for his daughter who has run off, and he thinks has joined this, I guess, community of these people who follow these raves, and they have raves in the Moroccan desert.
Whoa.
And it's just this traveling rave with this wall of speakers just put up in the middle of the Moroccan desert, and he's trying to find his daughter among them. And I won't say much more than that. It's a movie that I feel like there's much more symbolism to it than actual, story. Again, it's very recent, so don't want to mention much at all about it. But it is shot entirely in the desert. There is a lot of intensity in it. And just a lot of what is in this movie. There's also the unlikely connections that form because there's this father who's searching, and he ends up connecting with some of these people who follow the rave around. You don't end up learning that much about them, but there are a lot of just visual cues that suggest things about them. So I felt that in terms of both the visuals, but also how he, kind of portrayed these relationships. And even though you don't know much about these people, you do end up caring about them and caring about this relationship.
Okay.
And, so I felt that he would this is one where I think not only would I do a remake, but I feel like this is somebody who I think would do a really great job with something like this.
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very glad I didn't see it. Seeing it in a theater would have been, I think, so too intense.
Too intense. Yeah.
Yeah. If you watch it, you will know what I mean.
Yeah, I'll have to check it out.
Yeah. Yeah. What would you do?
I'm right there with you. I think that it deserves a remake. And it was funny because I was thinking about it and I was just like, who would be good to put in this? And I was thinking about oh, like Diego Luna, that'd be somebody good. And then I was like, oh, Diego Luna basically did so much of this in Andor. And I don't know if, Dan, you watched Andor. It's excellent. It's an excellent show. And it's essentially, Diego Luna plays this character who becomes just part of this gigantic revolution.
Yeah.
and unwittingly, and so much of the thing, like a lot of the things that happen in that show are things that you see happening to him in or that are in Duck You Sucker. I mean, he doesn't become buddies with an Irish explosive expert, but
but he definitely makes
he makes connections on the way. But
yeah.
But also it's just like you never know where he stands with people, and you never know where they stand with him, and in so many ways it's just like, man, he already did something so cool about being part of a gigantic revolution. But that is to say, I think that the actual on Earth Mexican Revolution is deserving of another movie like Duck You Sucker, and perhaps there is a way to do it where it's a tighter storytelling, and maybe there's a little bit more fun added into it.
Yeah.
But I do think though, like, it needs to have the practical effects. It needs to be shot on film. Like, it really needs to capture the magic.
And that was the other thing about Sirat, was that watching it at home, was there was something about it that still made me feel, it felt like, this feels like film.
Cool.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
It's always nice when that happens.
Right. Yeah. So, and of course there are so many, just kind of like thinking about actors, so many actors who I'm sure would be, great to step into these roles, and actors who we might, not necessarily be familiar with. And, like you said, Diego Luna.
Right.
And
Domhnall Gleeson.
There's certain Domhnall Gleeson as Mallory.
He'd be good.
Yeah, he yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, there's a bunch of there's
a lot of great Irish actors out there right now too. I mean,
Paul Mescal, although I don't know if I would see him in this role.
Paul Mescal is very good. I think that he's maybe a little young.
Yeah. I mean, once upon a time, like not now. Not now, but at a certain point, it would have been a great role for Liam Neeson.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I mean, actually,
somebody who looks weathered and leathery.
Well, yeah. I mean, except for that, maybe he'd be too close to Coburn if you're trying to do a little something different.
Yeah, but you know what? With Coburn, there was a tinge of humor to it that I just don't think that Liam Neeson is capable of.
Oh. I mean, look, I wouldn't cast him now. I'm saying if they were doing this like 15, 20 years ago.
No, but like thinking about Liam Neeson, and I'm talking about like the roles that I like him in, like Darkman.
Yeah.
There are some light-hearted moments in that movie, but not because of him. He always has kind of the intensity dialed up. You know what? The one movie where he does have a little bit of whimsy is Leap of Faith.
Oh, yeah. He's the sheriff. He's the sheriff in that, isn't he?
Yeah, he's very not Irish in that one.
No, he's like, small town. Leap of Faith, man. Shit, I haven't seen that movie in forever. That's a great movie.
I watched it a couple of years ago, maybe a year and a half ago. It's not thought of as a great movie, but
it's a fun movie. They turned it into a musical.
Of course they did.
But anyway, that's Leap of Faith. Steve Martin at one time would have been a fine John Mallory.
Hey,
no.
Maybe.
I mean, maybe, I don't know. Yeah, but it feels like, the casting, like you can get the casting right for this. And I mean, I have to say also, I think like movies work much less on like a star system now than they used to. Like we have actors that are popular and famous, but we're not in the era of like star driven, with maybe a few exceptions.
Well, I'm so tired of the way that the press talks about casting decisions in upcoming movies or TV shows where it's just like, oh, if somebody, ducks out from something, it becomes like a huge news story. And it's like, it might be something as simple as like a scheduling conflict.
Yeah.
Or, like something that's completely unrelated to anything anybody else would even care about. But
That's
like
clickbait.
they always make such a big deal out of it. It's really disgusting. Even though there are a lot of movies where there are like the big, like, oh, it's got all of these stars in it. And I'm thinking, like the Dune movies,
Or like the Knives Out movies, or
the
like
Knives Out
that.
movies. It's always like this
But
person's in it, and like TV. It's like, okay, well, who's going to be in the next season of White Lotus? And it's all this, and that.
But it's more about ensembles, and it's less about like a studio paying. Like I'm thinking about like Paramount keeping Eddie Murphy under contract.
Right. Well, we're not seeing as many of those, like, this one person drives the whole thing, like Tom Cruise movies or anything like that. Certainly.
I mean, with the exception of Tom Cruise movies.
Well, right. But even like that's only once every few years. Ryan Gosling is maybe one person that, is carrying a lot of the like star power for movies.
I mean, Project Hail Mary, not that there's not other humans in it.
And I will say, deservedly so, because I love Ryan Gosling, and he works for me.
Ryan Gosling is great.
Yes, he is. Yeah, and so but you do have fewer of those,
Ryan Gosling is Mallory.
That'd be interesting. You could put him in anything.
I
feel like it would be nice to have an actual Irish person, not like, of course, an Irish person is a white person, so it's, it's not marginalized the way that a Mexican person would be. But, just to not have, I feel like there
are enough Irish actors out there who would be good. And I'm sure like there are plenty who are not necessarily household names, but it doesn't, that's the thing is also, it just does that doesn't seem to matter as much anymore.
Yeah.
You get you get a good title, you get a good property. I do think this would need to be like a big screen. Like this could not be a direct to streaming remake.
No. Yeah. It's gotta be fun, and I feel like it could have I'm not saying that Shane Black should direct it, but I feel like having the energy of the Nice Guys,
he could write it.
He could write it. I mean, I don't know if we need to have a Christmas scene, but we may as well. Shane Black,
give him. Say you get one flashback to John Mallory, and it can be a Christmas.
He's opening presents with his girlfriend and her boyfriend.
Yeah, they're giving each other gifts. They all give each other the same gift. Then they laugh about it, and then they make out, and then cut back to the Mexican Revolution.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway,
God, the makeout scene is so weird. Is like Coburn's making out with her, and the other dude's like standing there, like behind him, and he's just like away. Smiling.
Yeah.
Oh, so uncomfortable. But
yeah,
you don't have to have that in the remake.
No, you don't. Well, anybody out there who has any ideas of how you would want to bring back Duck You Sucker, aka Fistful of Dynamite, aka Once Upon a Time in the Revolution, send us an email, ruinchildhoodspod@gmail.com. Leave us a comment on all the things you can leave comments on. We love to hear from you. So, Dan, we are actually going to be wrapping up our current season on our next episode, which is all movies that have full sentence titles. If you saw our episode list, you might be like, hey, all of these are full sentences. We did that on purpose. Mm-hmm. And our next episode is going to wrap up the season. We're going to take a bit of a hiatus. I'm about to start a new job. And so, the schedules are going to be a little unpredictable for a while. So, Dan, why don't you tell everybody what we're going to be wrapping up this season with? And I think it's a special one.
Well, very appropriately, we are wrapping up this season, and before we go on hiatus, we are leaving you with this message. Stay tuned. As in 1992's Stay Tuned, directed by Peter Hyams, starring John Ritter, Pam Dauber, Eugene Levy, and sex pest Jeffrey Jones.
at least he's a really evil, sniveling villain.
I mean, yeah,
like so many of these that we cover.
Yeah, and I think, and we've talked about him so many times. We've established our opinions on him.
Oh my god!
And he's going to be unavoidable to talk about in the next movie. But just to counteract that, because we need to end on the positive note, we're talking about John Ritter on the next episode.
We're talking about
too.
John Ritter. I know, long overdue to talk about John Ritter. I'm really excited. This movie is a big one for me growing up, and I've definitely got some stories to tell about this one.
Oh yeah.
But Dan, as you are riding on a stagecoach with a bunch of total asswipes, I wish you a good journey.
Good journey, you sucker.